So guys, good morning. Welcome to our session here of Ask Me Anything, where you can ask any query regarding your career transition to data science. So if you are from any domain and you want to change your track to data scientist or to data analytics, so our expert Arithro will help you here in the career transition guidance. So you will get your roadmap where you will get your personalized roadmap here. So if you have any queries, for example, if you are from any domain, it could be sales, operations, any domain, and you want to change it to data science, you can directly contact with our expert here. So firstly, please welcome our expert Arithro Sinha, and he is a predictive analyst and data scientist, and also an advanced analytics professional with 13 years of work experience. So basically, he having work experience in different domains: banking, insurance, cross-border payments industries. So you can you can totally contact with him. You can have your queries. You can ask your questions in the chat, or you can simply raise your hand. We will ask you to unmute yourself, and there you can ask the queries.
First of all, a very good morning to everybody who has joined on the call. I am a big fan of uh, enthusiastic people like you who want to take up data science and consider that sincerely as the next step in a career. So, thank you for taking our time on a Sunday morning like this. And thanks, Apurva, for introducing me. So, a quick word about myself. I work with American Express right now and have been working for close to a decade now. But this is the second stint at Amex. Like Apurva mentioned, there's been a mix of banking as well as insurance. So I left Amex in 2013, and that was first time when I moved away from banking and credit cards. Then I moved into insurance, and it was a short stint out there, but it was an interesting one, which taught me a lot of things. And then I kind of moved back to Amex. But when I moved back, typically American Express is known for credit cards. But this time when I came back, it was a completely new product portfolio that we had to work on. It's a cross-border payments portfolio, which was in competition with Western Union. So over the course of last 13 years, what I have seen as an interesting aspect about data science is that there are a lot of skills and lot of project related items that can be interchangeable, that can be quite portable. So concepts learned back in 2009 are still relevant. The concepts learned recently as a year ago, are fairly new. But then as I go further into my career, like 3 years, 4 years from now, we can totally use those concepts. So data science, I feel that you can only add on to it, add on to your skills, and that was one of the key learnings for me as the years progressed. So I would like to take your questions on career progression, questions on specific topics that you have, and try my best to answer you. And like Apurva mentioned, you can reach out to me on the chat. You can raise a hand, and we can have a conversation around your question.
So, guys, we're gonna start with some basic questions that everybody's curious to know, like what is data science, how you can do the transition for career and everything. So, let's start with the question answers. And meanwhile, if you find any query or something, you can directly write it in the group or directly in the chat, or you can raise your hand so that we can ask you to unmute yourself and you can simply ask a query to your trainer, to the expert. Guys, we're gonna start with some basics question, which can clear most of the doubts that you guys have. So let's start with the question answers, and I'll be taking the questions in the ending. So I'll be noting down all the questions that you're sending me in the chat, so that we can have a discussion on that later on once we finish the queries. Yeah, I hope everyone is okay with that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Um, so Indra, firstly, the most common question that people say ask is like, why choose data science as a career option? Why? What's required? Why do we need to choose data science over some uh, other options, other domain? Why data science only?
So this is a fundamental question,
Mm-hmm.
that choosing of data science as a career option. And if I look back, even at myself, right, when we were in college, we were not quite sure if analytics is going to be what we're interested in. But then we saw that this field evolved. So from 2006, I've seen my seniors getting placed in various roles within advanced analytics, predictive analytics, and we've seen it expand. So what it all started with is the banking industry, because it had a lot of data. to begin with. Being a very structured industry, also regulated, so it's something that it's important, and it's absolutely imperative that banks capture data with regards to their customers, with regards to how they interact with the business overall, and that opened doors for a lot of analysis as such. Now, it all started with a few industries which were capable of such vast amount of data collection. But what is happening now, as we look around, is that with the advent of digitization, almost every small business is capable of data collection. Now, once data is collected, aggregated, stored in a structured form, what becomes as a logical next step is for every business to mine that data. And when you decide to mine the data, you're actually consciously taking a decision that, okay, from now on, I'm going to guide my decisions based on the past historical data that I've all observed, based on my customers, based on my products. Now, when such a decision is taken at the business level, data scientists or analysts who can showcase that capability, who possess that skill set to go through volumes of data, churn out meaningful insights, they become important. And what makes data science as a unique career option, in my opinion, is, as I was telling you earlier, that if you pick up a certain set of core skills in terms of handling data, in terms of churning insights from the data, it becomes a set of skills that is extremely transportable. You can transport your skills from one domain to the other domain. It's still applicable, and it's always additive. There are very rare situations where skills in data science become redundant. Let's take a few examples. Python has become almost the de facto technology that people work on, right?
Yeah, true.
That's there, right?
Yeah.
Now, I when I started my career, I started in SaaS, because back in the day, only a few companies were able to afford SaaS's license, and it was always costly. It has typically been a costly software to use because it's a regulated company, and so on and so forth. So, being from a company which allows you to work on SaaS gave you an edge over other analysts who are working on, say, other software such as SPSS, which is coming from IBM. Now, having said that, even if you have worked on SPSS and say you picked up something very simple like handling of outliers or handling of extreme values in the data. Now, when you pick up that skill, you take the concept stays with you. Now, what you need to know is when you move to a next platform, how do you apply the same concept in the new platform? If you're able to transport your skills from one to the other, then you're pretty much sorted. And that is why data science is such a flexible career option. And again, the important part about data science that we should not forget is that it's across multiple domains. Every industry nowadays, they would want to use data science for taking decisions. So when we see data science, there are three things that we should keep in mind in order to sum up why we choose data science as a career option. Is that if I set foot into data science, I don't have to be an expert in every single topic on the first day. I might as well be an expert in a few set of topics, and if I get a role, that can be my starting point. I can only go upwards from there because I can only add on to my existing skills. Rarely will my skills become redundant. As when as and when technologies change, platforms and softwares change, what you need to do is transport your skills from that environment to the new environment. Right? That's one. The other part that you have to keep in mind is data science as a career option spans across industries. And I was reading the other day, although there are some talks that Ford might leave India, but Ford as a company has been deploying data science heavily. Now you might wonder, what would a car company do with data science, right? I mean, it's like very counterintuitive, but it's not, because when we look at Hyundai Venue, for example, it comes with the Blue Link Car Connect, right? So your car is always connected with your application, and this is something that almost all car manufacturers are doing right now. Now, why is that such an exciting thing for data science? Because that generates data about your driving behavior. How quickly do you shift your gears? What kind of is your driving pattern aggressive? Is your driving pattern normal? On an average, like a smooth and calm driver. So your various driving behavior is getting captured. Now, this data is a gold mine for insurance companies to determine the right amount of premium that they should charge for car insurance policies, depending on how risky are you as a driver, right? So you can see how data science moves from one domain to the other domain quite seamlessly. So if you start from one industry, you are pretty much relevant for other industries as well. right? All you have to do is make sure that you get a good question handle on the business part. And the third thing is that your skills are always going to be quite portable from one end to the other end. So that's why I feel data science has been a interesting career option, and it doesn't have to be from the starting point. Like for example, there are parts to customer life cycle, right? I can acquire a customer, I can make the customer engaged, and then when a customer tries to leave, I can try to retain the customer. So at all the business touch points, you will find many different use cases of data science. So that is what I feel has kept me interested. The breadth of the work, the various domains, and how I can use my core skill set across multiple domains. So I
Oh,
feel those are the 3 points I wanted to draw all of your attention towards. I think that's what makes data science an extremely unique and a great career option.
okay. All right. I hope everyone is clear with why you should choose data science as a career option. Okay. Now, moving forward, we have another question. So, who can become a data scientist or data analytics, we say?
That's a great question. So, the fundamental skill of a data scientist is that of a problem solver. Now, if you look at it, there are various ways in which you can solve problems, right? There are certain deterministic ways, and then there are other ways of using data. So, if I want to know, say a simple thing like, say to take the case of an investment, right? If you want to know how much should a person invest to attain a certain corpus of rupees X in a certain number of years, and if you know that data, then you can use a mathematical formula to calculate how much by what percentage should the money grow. So that's compound interest formula. So that's also a kind of problem solving. But for data scientists, what we normally try to do is that for people to have a problem solving mindset is most important. And anyone who is open to looking at things from a random point of view. So what I mean by that is any data set that you work on or any problem statement that you're working on, and that is related to a data set, you should look at the problem as a random experiment, and the outcome can have a probabilistic nature. So if you have a good concept of probabilities, you don't have to be an expert, but you need to have a good concept of probabilities, and you can look at a business problem and relate it to a analytical problem. That skill set, if anybody has, or at least fundamentally if that person is aligned to such a scenario, then that individual can potentially be trained to be a very good data scientist. So that's why I'll give you an example. So back when we were in campus, right? So EXL Services is a very well-known company. They are into data science for a long time. In fact, they acquired Inductis in the early 2000s to mid 2000 actually. So to come more into data science. Otherwise, EXL was initially a BPO. Now, EXL or Inductis has always maintained a set of brain teasers as a very absolutely important interview round for any kind of data science interviews. Now, now those brain teasers does not require you to know any statistics, doesn't require you to know any software or any programming, but those brain teasers actually test your logical thinking ability. So it's important to kind of have that problem solving mentality, and anybody who has a knack of solving a problem with numbers, I think can be trained to become a data scientist.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Rita. Moving forward, um, okay. How to make a career transition from the following domains? For example, somebody from marketing, sales, automotive, mechanical, civil, operations, anything or any field. How we can make a career transition? Because I know many people who are here are from different domains, so they must be thinking, oh, how we can do it. So any suggestion, any few
Right.
common point that they can use, or if you create particular domain, if you want to pick anything.
So if you look at the domains that are here, right? So sales, marketing, automotive, mechanical, and civil.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, almost all domains, they capture some sort of data or the other. Now, for a sales manager, it's important to keep a track of how the sales teams are performing, whether they are meeting their targets or not. Are they at the target or are they above the target? Which members of the team are below the target, and so on. Marketing has very numerical goals. So, uh, like for example, a year-on-year profit target can be 8%. increase in profit or 20% increase in revenue and so on and so forth, right? So if you look at all these domains, you will be able to, if you just go a little deeper into it, you will
Mhm.
be able to see some numerical goals attached to each and every domain.
Yeah.
Automotive, like I gave you an example already. So they are they have a lot of numbers connected to car sales. They have a lot of numbers connected to nowadays they have even more because of connected car technology.
Mhm.
Mechanical is interesting because I was interacting with somebody in Thailand, and this person actually is from mechanical, and our conversation was extremely interesting because we were talking about an optimization problem. So in a factory process, could you find out what are the specific settings of a certain machine or a certain overall production process so that the production volume can be optimized, right? So what they have tried to do is they've tried to look at the performance of the overall process with respect to various setting combinations. Now, once they have captured that data, they are now in a position to mine it, and they can figure out what can be the most optimal combination so that the production can be maximized. And again, civil engineering also will have a lot of numbers connected to various constructions, various the kind of material that is getting used, the kind of the quality of the stuff that is getting used, the average shelf life of the products being made. Now, uh, what I'm trying to say is that numbers will be touching across all these domains. Now, there are two things important to make a career transition. One is that get a good handle on the fundamental concepts. You need to make sure that you get the fundamental concepts right about stats, about ML, about any kind of software. If you start by learning on R, that's also okay. You could start by learning on Python, that's also fine. The software to me is a way of getting the job done. So you can pick up any one of your choice and become conversant with that. You don't have to be an expert in that right from day one. Expertise will take time to come. That is perfectly okay. But once you're conversant with that software, you can start using it. It can even be Excel for you, right? But start using numbers to solve problems in your own domain. That's most important. Learn the fundamentals, start using numbers to solve problems in your own domain, and then showcase that work as your initial work in data science, and then use that as a platform to move to a deeper role in data science where you have a different set of expectations connected to different projects. So moving from all of these domains are definitely possible,
Mhm.
provided you have shown the ability to work with numbers in this domain in some manner or the other. So what am I looking for? If somebody comes from a civil background, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the individual's ability to use numbers to solve a problem, right? So have you done any of that? Any of that? It can be in Excel also, or it can be in any basic pen paper back of the envelope calculation as well. That is immaterial. But have you displayed the ability or have you displayed the knack of using numbers? So that I think is important. So that piece you have to crack yourself, but you will only be able to crack it once you learn the fundamentals. So the first step you should do is learn the fundamentals from a very credible source, and then go back to what you're doing and try and spot an opportunity where you can apply them.
Okay. So I hope everybody is clear like how we can make a career transition. So our next question is okay. How can we make a successful transition without compromising with our previous job and not to be considered as a freshers? That's like a main important question. Like everybody has in their mind. In
Yeah,
fact, including me, if I want to make a career transition, I will definitely think how I should not compromise in that job because
absolutely.
obviously job and being a fresher, have experience in a one domain and then having no experience in particular domain, how to do with that?
No, I think first of all, it's not just an important question. It is a fundamental question, and you should have this question right up there when you even decide to move to data science. And I think somewhat it's kind of related to the previous question. Now, in data science terms,
Mm-hmm.
um, this question and the previous question has very high correlation. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that you can be from any kind of domain, but the fundamental concern you might have is that you don't want to be considered to be a fresher because
Yeah.
that's there. Now, like I said, if you pick up any domain, for example, say somebody's from marketing domain, right? And the individual is concerned about designing of various campaigns, designing social media campaigns to reach out to a target audience, and designing the creative, designing the messaging, right? All of those elements are there. Now, see, every single element connected to creativity, every single element connected to applying of marketing concepts are in place for this individual. Now, there's only one or two pieces missing, right? One piece that is missing is, and this is an example that will help you relate to this question better. What's missing is, has that individual actually taken the time to look at how the campaign has performed and learned and use the learnings in the next campaign? Now, think about it. You already designed social media campaigns, right? On Twitter, on Insta, on multiple other platforms, right? But have you gathered your data back to see how have they performed and used, say, a simple thing like a statistical hypothesis testing? But the moment you do it, even at your personal level, it's possible that your boss hasn't asked for it. But if you do it at your personal level, in the next interview that you go, right, you can successfully position yourself as someone who's been doing an end-to-end job. You see, whatever decisions you take in your current role, right, try to measure those decisions using data. And that is the easiest way to start using data for anything that you do. Even if you go to, say, civil engineering background, right? So there are two projects going on. There's a difference in the quality of materials being used, right? Now, is there any is the average shelf life between the two, compared statistically, can that be compared? Is there any significant, statistically significant difference between the average shelf life or not? So these are the kind of questions you can ask.
Mhm.
And when you start doing those, right,
Yeah.
you will not be considered as a fresher. You will only be considered as a person who has been using data science for sure, but in a limited way. So in your interviews, you can always position it this way by saying that, look, in my role, there's very limited scope of applying data science, and this is where I have been able to apply it so far. But as I look at your role, it gives me the opportunity to apply it in a much bigger way, and the breadth of the overall application will increase a whole lot. So I feel that it's going to really not add a lot of value from a career point of view, and I can expand my project possibilities, and I can expand my project portfolio. So that way, you will not be considered as a fresher, because you're showcasing your active use of data in your projects for some amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And keep that in mind. So communication, I think, is important. One thing that you should always keep in mind is, when you want to make a career transition, being able to communicate successfully about your goals, about
Mhm.
what you've been doing, and why you make a good fit for a data science role is very, very important.
Yeah. Okay. So moving forward, um, so what kind of role we can get after completing a data science course? What kind of role it will be? Like what we have to do in that particular role? If you can guide us somewhere.
So, there's no easy way to answer this question, to be honest. It depends on couple of things. It depends on the organization you're going for, and it also
Mhm.
depends on the readiness levels. So, like I said, going back to the answer I gave to the previous question, if, say, an individual has displayed a good ability in measuring the impact of marketing campaigns, or measuring the impact of various manufacturing processes, right, and used statistics to prove whether something is working and something is not working. If that's the limit and extent of what you've done, you
Mhm.
will not be perceived to be ready for a predictive modeling kind of role, right? However, you will be perceived to be ready for a marketing analytics role, in
Mhm.
which your job could be to, again, measure multiple campaigns, provide strategic recommendations to the business, and have a much higher percentage of your time being dedicated to data analytics. Now, let's take another example where a person is kind of doing some amount of predictive analytics. For example, he or she works in an organization
Yeah.
where Python is not there, or say any advanced software is not there, but they use Excel to create linear regression. All right. So if that is the situation, then you are slightly more prepared for a advanced analytics kind of role, right? So it depends on your level of readiness, and I feel that it can range from anywhere depending on your years of experience and how ready you are, from a data analyst to a manager level. So anywhere between this range, you can expect to get slotted in your overall career journey. And also it depends on the organizations, because I can tell you, that in Amex, right, the entry level jobs are called management trainee. Now, when you look at the designation management trainee, it doesn't even have the word data, or it doesn't have the word scientist. Nothing to do with data. No, it doesn't even feel like a data science role, but it is a completely data science role. It has been like that for so many years. I don't know how long it has been like that, right? So then we have some designation called assistant manager. So you might not find the word data or the word scientist or analyst in a designation, but that should not make you feel that this role is not connected to any of that. What you should understand is right from the entry level of the
Mhm.
hierarchy to manager level, you anywhere you can be placed within the hierarchy depending on your level of readiness, and also you depending on the years of experience. And if you can show relevant years of experience, then nothing like it.
Okay. So how much hike one could expect after transition? Of course, salary is something we all look up to. Like we need good salary, good everything. So how much hike one should expect?
Right. Now data science has always been a higher than median paying uh, domain. So if you take the median pay in almost all the countries, data science starts with a number which is slightly higher than the median. But I think as in percentage terms, going by the present market trends,
Mm-hmm.
this I feel this is one place where historical data might not be helpful, because a lot of things depend on the market you are working in. A lot of things also depend on the kind of investments that are flowing into data science right now. So I think if you consider India as a market, right, any job in India
Mm-hmm.
can easily give you anywhere between 25 to 35% hike very, very easily
Yeah.
on your, that's on the conservative side, of course, but it could be higher as well. But
Mm-hmm.
we have to keep in mind that India is quite a high inflation markets where the cost of living increases by a certain percentage every month, every year. So that is also something that is taken into consideration while compensating employees. So I feel overall, data science is going to be a highly paying job. But what is crucial is that all of you should realize that data science is a long-term game. It wouldn't be, it's not going to be much helpful if you look at data science as a career for a year or a couple of years. You should, once you come in, you stay in for the long term and you move from one company, one domain to the other domain. That's also okay. You can even start on your own. That is also a great possibility. But once you're into data science, it kind of it will automatically propel you to do more and more. So you start off from wherever you start from, you will only go upwards from there. So yeah, a good hike is what you can
Mm-hmm.
expect.
That's nice. Okay. So let me just take few questions that I have in the chat. So okay, so first question that we have is from Vansi. So I'm an electrical engineer. Can I make my career in data science and artificial intelligence?
So of course you can, Mansi. Now a couple of questions from my side to you is that as an electrical engineer, what is it that you do that allows you to have access to data? Do you have any access to data? Anything that you do can be measured? Any numerical impact of your work?
Yeah, now I'm not sure about it. Mm,
Okay.
yeah, but there is various data in electrical domain also in automotive sectors and all.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. So that can only so if you get yourself start working on any kind of data which is connected to your core area, that will be a huge plus. But I feel that having a logical bent of mind, having a problem solving mindset will help you get started in data science. And if you can totally become a data scientist, I don't see a challenge, because there are lots and lots of people from electrical engineering background working in places that I have worked, working in places that my friends work in. I mean, I can see from engineering background, there's a lot of people coming in. So that is definitely there. Being good at problem solving using data is something that you have to ultimately demonstrate, right? You can either try to demonstrate it through your work. If you're able to demonstrate it through your work, you have a huge advantage. If you are not able to demonstrate through your work, it is not a complete, it's not a big problem, because you have multiple other sources. Like you can go online, pick up a good business problem, pick up a solid data set that you want to work on, give it time, uh, try to create a proof of concept around it, and then you can position it in that manner that, look, this is this is my work and this is what I've done so far. But if I get an opportunity to work with you as a data scientist in your organization, then I'm sure I can learn more and deliver more. So yeah, an honest attempt in showcasing your skill set is what it takes. And it's also important to be able to communicate effectively. Now, don't confuse, never, all of you on the call, right? Never confuse communication with fluency in a certain language. Those are very different concepts, right? When I say communication, it
Okay.
means that are you able to convey concepts to anybody across the table or anyone you're having a conversation with, in a manner that the person is able to understand and take away some of it. So one thing that has helped me so far, in terms of communication, is practicing with my leaders. And I've always got very supportive leaders in this case. So I always, like, I've always got the opportunity to practice discussions, practice presentations with my leaders, and that really helped, because in especially in senior leadership meetings, interviews, it's important to be able to make a point there. It doesn't have to be like, even if you're not super fluent in any particular language, that is not a deterrent, but you have to make sure that you use simple sentences, use short sentences, and then convey your message in the right manner. So yeah, those two things will actually help you.
Okay.
Ankit, do you have any
And I
other
have another question.
question?
Yeah, sure.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
What is the difference between data science and artificial intelligence? Is there any similarities between these two?
Yeah, there are lots of similarities. So artificial intelligence is it has data science at the very core of it. But when you look at AI as a whole, you can think of it as a very sophisticated form of automation. But when I automate something, I create rules, right? So the automation processes work according to certain set of rules. So if I design a washing machine, I'll be designing some rules into it, certain logics will be built into it, and it will have to work. And the user of that washing machine will have to start working on its own. Now, um, my machine can start working based on the rules that I have created. But when it comes to AI, the machine can design its own rules based on the way it is being designed. Okay. So artificial intelligence, you can think of AI as an adaptive form of data science. So you give it some, you make it educated to some extent, and then it starts educating itself depending on the nature, on the way it's getting used, on multiple other factors. So AI, you can think of a concept where things are automated, but it is not up to you to automate it every single time. You automate it in the first go, and then it kind of self learns and develops itself, and delivers accordingly. But you then, what happens is, a lot of people have this concern that, okay, if my system starts to self learn and starts doing it, what am I going to do? I'm going to lose my job or not? That is not the point. Your job is then to, as a data scientist, your job will be to monitor your system and try and guide it, make it course correct. So a lot of times in AI, what happens is, it can't determine every single thing with the same intelligence as a human, right? So you will see some issues coming there. So you have to keep a very strong vigil on the process. You'll have to monitor the process, and then apply your judgment and tune it accordingly over a period of time. So that is, you can think of AI in that sense, that you're kind of automating it, and then it's self learning. But data science is more uh, from the data scientist's perspective, where you start by looking at a project. You start by understanding the data that you are working with. Either you can get the data from some source, somebody gave you, some data engineer gave you, or you manage to pull it yourself. But then you start by looking at the data and looking at the problem through the lens of the data. So I want you to find out, how can I grow my, if I tell you that I have a product XYZ, and there are uh, 10 lakh customers associated with product XYZ, and I want to grow the number of 10 lakh to 12 lakhs, right? How can I do that? What is it that I should do? Who should I sell out? Like, what kind of people should get offers on product XYZ. So this is the kind of business problem, right? And then you are working with a certain kind of data. Then it is up to you to understand the problem related to this and then figure out. But AI happens at a much larger scale. So AI can literally, move between different problems and try and learn it on its own and be a more automated version of the process. Was I able to answer your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
You're most
and
welcome.
another one, as a fresher, how can I start my career in data science or AI domain? As a fresher, now I am a final year student in electrical engineering. As a fresher, how can I get opportunities in this domain? How I have to start this career?
So as a fresher, if you're in final year, right, then I would say focus on Python as a programming language. Understand that to some extent. Try and create certain things, certain tools in Python if you can. If it is possible for you, you can pick up some sort of data from Kaggle and create a dashboard in Python if you're able to do it. That's a great way to showcase your skills with the data. So you have to show your ability in data comprehension, interpretation, insight generation, these things, right? So for that, as a fresher, okay, so nobody will expect you to come from have a lot of business perspective, because you haven't really worked on any particular domain. So that won't be an expectation, but the expectation people will have from you in your interview, when you appear for an interview, is that they will expect you to have good basic concepts of statistics and ML, and then a demonstration of your skills about having fundamental knowledge of how to work in Python, how to work in R, and demonstration of your data capabilities. If you can manage that, then you have a good enough chance to crack a job.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're
Okay.
most welcome.
Now moving to our next question is from Subhanil Shah. So can you give us some ground level idea about what work you are presently doing as a predictive analyst and data scientist in that field?
Sure. We'll be more than happy to. Sure, Vinod. So, the work that I'm currently doing right now involves expansion of cross-border payments portfolio. So now we've got a certain product, a certain profit percentage in mind, and with that, we're trying to find out what can be the best customers to cross-sell the cross-border payments product to, and then go from there. So, and these insights and these recommendations from these cross-sell campaigns will
Yeah.
be used to send out offers to people. Now, what we normally do is that we refer to a lot of data connected to existing customers of American Express who have other products, and the kind of interaction they're having with those products, how engaged they are, how much, what kind of usage do we see? Do we see sporadic usage? Do we see very frequent usage, or are we seeing almost no usage? Stuff like that. So we have to do a lot of clustering in order to figure out what are the behavior segments of every customers, and then within every behavior segments, we need to form the right audiences where we can have a cross-border payment product portfolio pitched to them. So anyone who has an international based business, who frequently transacts on their Amex cards to send money abroad, they can be a good candidate. So yeah, we are supposed to find all of these things together, working with data and team that I lead with, here in India. And yeah, so that's pretty much what we are doing right now. It's interesting because we use a diverse set of tools. We not only use Python, we have come up with a way of doing things in Excel, primarily because senior leaders in marketing, they haven't found the time. Unfortunately, they are not as enthusiastic as you guys. So they are not going to log in on a Sunday to figure out how they can learn about data science. And that's what I feel is going to separate the crowd that we have on the webinar today with the senior leaders that we have today. So when you guys become senior leaders, I'm sure your juniors they're gonna have a better time, because you understand machine learning much more than my seniors did. So what actually makes me do in this situation is that it forces me to think of ways to communicate my output in a much more layman terms, to in a simple manner to people. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Did I answer your question, Shubhadeep?
Okay. So our next question is from Akhil Matthew. Sir, how to start a career in data analytics? analyst when you are from non-technical background?
So, Akhil, I think, yeah, it is absolutely not a problem. Moving from MBA background as well. What I feel you might need some support in is that I'm pretty sure that as a part of your MBA, you would have studied statistics to some extent, right? So you have most MBA courses have stats as a part of their curriculum any which way. So concepts like probability distributions, concepts like correlation regression will not be new to you. You're also going to be, I'm sure you were also taught hypothesis testing and how to figure out the part about statistical significance. So those things are, I'm sure you would have learned. What might be useful for you is to pick up skills in programming connected to Python, because I think right now it's a very important skill set that everybody is looking at, and using Python to determine solutions, using Python to create especially machine learning solutions. So learn how to use Python to perform statistical tasks, perform ML-oriented tasks, and that can give you an edge. And a combination with MBA and a skill set in Python can be a very good combination for data science. So you should look forward to definitely applying for roles in data science for sure. I'm not sure if you were able to hear me. Uh, Then if you have any further questions, you're always free to reach out to Apurva.
Okay. So our next question is from Soumya Rajan. So do I need to be an expert in mathematics and statistics to be a data scientist?
You need to be you need to be an expert at mastering the basics,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty much it. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Soumya, did I get your name correctly? Soumya, right?
Soumya, yeah.
Right. So Soumya, like when I completed MSc in statistics, I realized I was taught a lot of theorems at the university, which frankly we never used. Um, they were more theoretical in nature, and they were probably more geared towards solving a different kind of theoretical problem. So not everything that we learn is actually used. So when you say you have to be an expert, I am going to assume that you're mentally comparing yourself with someone who has studied the subject for 5 6 years and then gained that expertise. But then do you need that level of expertise? I think not, right? You need to have a good ability to link fundamental concepts to a problem you're solving for. If you learn, say, 10 concepts and you're working on a problem, can you relate which concept to apply at which point of time? That is a skill that will help you more, right? I feel we need to demystify some of the concepts. One of the thing I want to clarify is that there is no need to feel that you need to study maths and stats in a very very academic way. You have to study maths, you have to study stats, but then there is a way to learn it. So the way we teach in LearnBay is that we keep it just at the level that you need to be
Mm-hmm.
successful in your job. We are of course not going to teach you if I mean I have taken batches in statistics myself. I never try to teach them as if they are preparing for a statistics exam, right? That is not the intent. The intent is that I try to teach people the way, especially stats, is the concepts connected to certain basic chapters, and then how they can relate that concept to any project that you're working. So yeah, that's the only level of expertise you should look forward to cultivate.
Okay. So moving forward, our next question is for data science, the fresher jobs are available. So are there any jobs available for data science freshers?
Yes, there are jobs available for data science freshers as well. Many startups, they are going to hire. Sometimes new teams get formed in very well established companies, and they are not able to go for and they have a lot of these urgent openings, right? So that is one situation where you can have freshers coming in. The other situation where you have freshers coming in, it's much more relatable. So companies have campus recruitment drives, right? So they do that. So a lot of times what happens is, say a company has made 12 offers. Out of them, say only 6 people or 7 people have joined. So 4 to 5 positions have suddenly become open, and they can then you start seeing those fresher openings in IIM Jobs, Naukri, LinkedIn, everywhere. They start to do it. because then at that time the organizations they need people to join immediately. So
Yeah.
this is what has happened uh, every year after after our college. Some people got placed through campus. Most of them got placed through off campus. This is how you get off campus placement. So yeah, fresher jobs are definitely there. You have to keep
Mhm.
persevering. You have to keep reaching out to people, and then yeah, I guess it's a combination of your resume and your background, and of course the right opportunity at the right time.
Okay. All right. So next question is from Sudha. Okay. No.
Hi, Sudha.
Okay. Yeah. So the next question is from Sudha. What is the difference between data science and computer science?
Well, computer science is heavy. I have, first of all, I'm not from computer science background myself. So I will attempt in answering the question. It might not be entirely accurate, but based on what I understand as a difference between programming and machine learning, I can tell you what the difference is. So in terms of using programming concepts to come up with a platform or a software, any programmer must be given the set of rules or the logics that has to go into the system, that has to go as a part of the algorithm, right? So if say a user interface is being designed where the user clicks on a certain part of the screen, and it takes the user to a specific next view or specific window should open up. So now that is static. That will happen for all the users, right? So that's a typical computer science problem statement. Now, if you change the problem statement and you say, okay, you collect data about the user the moment they log into your app, you collect the data, and depending on the data, you decide what to show them. So this becomes a data science problem. Okay,
Okay.
so you're trying to adapt your definitely programming concepts will be applied, but based on the nature of the data, based on the signals and the patterns of the data, you need to if you want to adapt your output accordingly. So that becomes more of a data science problem, but of course riding on the back of computer science. So nowadays a lot of solutions that are designed they ride on the back of computer science. So you have to be good at core concepts of programming, but yeah, the main difference lies in the fact that the solutions are more adaptive in terms of data science.
Hmm. Okay. So our next question is what is exactly difference between data science and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so we answered that question just a while ago, right? So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of artificial intelligence, we can think that it's essentially a more automated form of delivering decisions, and most AI systems are adaptive. They thrive on the back propagation algorithm, where they get signals back into the system which help them learn more. So I can have many different ways of learning. I can follow a certain path, and I can end up making a wrong decision or the correct decision, right?
Yeah.
But back propagation allows you to figure out that okay, the system can learn whether the decision taken by it is right or wrong in the same step itself, and try
Mm-hmm.
to figure out how to incorporate that learning in the next decision making. So that is so if deep learning wasn't there, uh, if back propagation algorithm has not been created, AI wouldn't have been possible. So having AI, I mean, the I part of AI is where the algo is trying to learn uh, from its own mistakes by itself. So that is what AI is all about. But data science is where you look at data generated from multiple processes, and then you have a certain human analyzing that data and coming up with a certain framework, I mean, designed by machines, of course. I mean, if you're building a simple decision tree, the decision tree will start finding its own rules. That's okay. That's perfectly all right. But the individual must train the system. So that is the difference between a data science or a data scientist kind of a role. And a AI role is that, okay, you design a system with certain set of signals as an initial bit, and let the system redesign itself every single time. So AI is much more, I think, evolved and a much more scaled outcome of a data science. So data science is at a smaller scale. AI has a much bigger scale.
Okay. All right. So moving to our next question is from Vaishnavi. So, as a college final year project using data science, machine learning, is there any project suggestions that you want to give?
Right. So, in your final year, one of the best projects out there is by there's a data set by the company called Home Credit. So, Home Credit is a Czech Republic-based organization that is a financial organization. They give out loans for homes, and they have an office in Gurgaon. Now, Home Credit has given their a part of their data in Kaggle as a competition that is freely available. You can try to download that, and that is given to you in the form of a project itself. You're not going to get a single data set. This is not the same as working on a Titanic data set or a Iris data set because those are simplistic data sets, right? So over here, they've given you a small version of their own database. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of work involved in aggregating the data. There's a lot of work involved in putting it together. So you will go through some of the pain that a data scientist is expected to go through in a real life project. So if you want to spend time building up, working on a project that can add real value in your skill sets and you can actually showcase that. So Home Credits project is one such. It's very difficult to cover Home Credits project on in an online session because in a 2 3 hour session it's not possible. So it's a big one. If you're interested, I will share the link with Apurva and you can reach out to her and she'll send it to you, and then yeah, you can check it out. If you start working on it, you need any guidance, etc. Let us know.
Okay. So, our next question is from Fatima. How data science works in computer science?
So again, it's kind of similar questions, but Fatima, the concept of data science can be brought into computer science in a
Mm-hmm.
manner that, so for example, say you're using a certain platform, say Python itself, to design a certain API or a certain product that should be automated, deployable on mobile apps, right? So if you're doing one such thing, and you want to bring in that element of customization for your users or for your customers, right? So you can start using data science concepts and algorithms within your overall software project. So that is where you will start giving a typical computer science project much more depth. You will give that project, which is otherwise based on computer science, a lot of depth and scale, and again, greater adaptability and customization. For example, think about Amazon's app only, right? So it can it could have been a blanket list of all the items that are there, right? It could have just been that, okay, you go here and you filter on whatever you want to see and see a laundry list of things that we have, and then choose what you want to buy and then go about doing it. But Amazon did not stop at creating such an app. They created the basic app, and then they embedded a lot of things called recommender engines. So what happens is, based on usage patterns, based on purchase patterns, browsing patterns, customers are recommended multiple products. So they're like, okay, you might also, they have this particular section called you might also like. So you might also like is basically a set of products which are heavily, people who buy those products, right? Their usage is highly correlated with your usage. So you can see where data science, and this is purely data science, right? So data science has come into the creation of the mobile application, and the overall experience of the customer gets enhanced. So but if you look at the application itself, it is the outcome of a computer science project, I'm sure. So a typical software engineer, a software would be, it can be considered to be a very software centric project where you're creating a specific application. But again, when you're trying to bring more data driven intelligence into it, that becomes a place where you can apply data science into your comski project.
Okay. So our next question is from Sikara Reddy. So is communication skills must for data science and data analysts?
Okay. So first of all, Shikara, a big thank you from my side for asking this question. I cannot tell you how important this question is. I really feel this is the most underrated, the least talked about, but trust me, the most important skill for any data scientist is being able to communicate. Every year when we get performance reviews, right, there's always going to be something on communication side that you can always, like, even the most important person in the company will have some aspect, connect some opportunity area or some negative connected to communication. I feel communication is, like I said, it's the most important skill of a scientist. Using data to communicate a whole story is very, very important. I'll give you a small example. Pandemic is going on since last year. Most businesses have seen a downturn, right? So now at the end of quarter 1 of this year, when most businesses try to see what, how they fared in the previous year, they will see a lot of dip in sales. Growth is not happening. Overall, there'll be like 10% decline in growth, right? Now that is one story. Now, as a data scientist, what you can do is you can try and break it down. You can see that, okay, uh, this is overall growth which has gone down, but is it true for every single customer? Has there been no customer that has shown any growth? If you start looking at the data closely, you will see that there's a small percentage of customers for who, in the pandemic environment, they have contributed to the company growth. But say 20 people have increased their purchases in whatever their engagement with the company, 20 customers, but 80 customers have decreased their engagement. So overall, you see minus 10% growth. But when you break this data point, when you break it apart into two pieces, you can start to see that, okay, there are some offshoots, green shoots of small, segments, micro segments of growth that is still there. Now, when you start communicating the overall observation in this manner, then it starts opening new opportunities, and that is why communication is important. What kind of opportunity is there? Then when you present something like this, then the next obvious question can be that, okay, can we figure out what are the drivers? Why are these people growing? Okay, what kind of characteristics do they have? And this is where you can start applying classification models, algorithms, and try and figure out, okay, which people should be given incentives to engage with the business more and more, what kind of customers, so that they can continue to see a greater proportion of people growing by the end of 2021. So you see how communication can play a role. It's not, I mean, most people confuse it with being able to speak fluently. That's one way of looking at it, but that's not the most important way. The most important way of communicating in data science is communicating in such a way that when they read your document, when they read your presentation, they almost, anybody who's reading it, right, they almost need no explanation. They can just look at it and read it, like a newspaper, right? So when you open a newspaper, nobody has to read the newspaper to you. Do you say when in the morning when you receive the newspaper, you don't need a person from Times of India to come and tell you, by the way, the meaning of this headline is this. This is what we are trying to say. It all automatically reaches you. So that's the kind of communication. And this is an example that my actual VP in HSBC told me. When I started making my presentation, trust me, guys, I was completely scared. I mean, like give me numbers, I'll calculate. Give me statistical related work, I'll do all of that sitting in a corner quietly, no problem. You want me to put all of that in a PPT? I don't know where to start. So this guy told me that, okay, when you open a page of Deccan Herald, do you need somebody to come and explain it to you? I said, no, of course, it's a newspaper. It is like self-explanatory. That's the input I receive, that your communication should be such that it kind of becomes self-explanatory when they look at your document. Yeah, so absolutely. Very important question. Thanks for asking.
Okay. So another question is from Pragyan. So good morning, Pragyan. So if someone belongs to different job background and want to switch career in data science, is it possible?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this already. It is definitely possible. It's just that you have to showcase your um, basic skills in working with data, and have to show at least a few examples where you have used data in your current job, whatever you're doing, in driving any kind of decision making. If you're able to showcase at least that and your understanding of basic concepts, then people will be ready to give you an opportunity to work more on data science side. So
Mhm.
yeah, it is definitely possible.
Okay. Okay. So next is from Pallavi. I am completed my graduate in B Science Computer Science. Okay. Can I become a data scientist and what should I do for that? So she has an BSc in computer science. So can she become a data scientist and what are steps she need to take?
Sure. So I think first of all, Pallavi, you have a great advantage because you do come from computer science background. So you have a good understanding of various programming concepts and how to go about creating solutions using programming concepts and algorithms. Now, what you have to do, I think, is that upskill yourself in learning some of the concepts related to stats and machine learning, and then go back to applying your ideas and learnings on the computer science side to see how you can integrate the two. If you're able to create automated solutions that help a marketing team decide the right kind of customer to send a campaign offer to, nothing like it. If you can create an automation solution to figure out what's the overall risk score of a customer when it comes to giving out a loan, absolutely fine. So yeah, so you are greatly poised for building a career. I think what's probably missing is some amount of guidance in picking up the right skills in data science. So that's where you should focus on. And given your background, you should definitely be able to make it happen.
So our next question is from Rachel. I have 14 years of experience in tele field as a telecom engineer. It would be wise decision to switch my career in data science.
So you have 3 years of experience in which domain?
So he's having experience of 14 years in telecom field as a telecom engineer.
So within telecom itself, there are multiple options within data science that you should definitely consider because you have a wealth of experience behind you in terms of the domain. Um, you're you're extremely well suited for a data science role in the telecom domain, especially a data driven companies such as Jio and Airtel. They are extremely data driven. They take a lot of decisions based on customer usage data, customer churn. They prevent customer churn by giving out multiple offers. So you have, on one hand, you have a wealth of experience on the technical side of the industry itself, and if you kind of upskill yourself towards figuring out how to use this data to drive business decisions, it's a great marriage of the two skills. So I feel absolutely you should right away start upskilling yourself, and don't move away from telecom because that's a very hot area for data science. And I can, like, I was although I did not actually go, but in 2015 I got a job offer from Johannesburg to work from Vodacom. Vodacom is the company which is also called Vodafone here, and they wanted to start their analytics and predictive analytics team in Johannesburg. They were open to hire some people from India as well. So that's when I realized that that there is a lot of data to work with in case of telecom. So I'm already excited to know that you have 14 years of experience in telecom. You should definitely start investing like about 6 to 8 months in picking up data science skills. LearnBay is a great way to do that. Most of our sessions are going to be, all the sessions are going to be absolutely live.
Mhm.
Trainers and coaches are going to be available even after the sessions. Like that's why I keep iterating that even after this session, if you want to get access to the recording of this webinar, if you have any questions later on, do make sure that you subscribe to YouTube and you subscribe to the other
Our
platforms that
LinkedIn channel
LearnBay
and
operates
every
in.
link will be shared. Yes, we will be sharing the links
Yeah.
where you can connect with us anytime
Yeah,
that you want.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely do that. And then the benefit is that even after most of the so what I've seen is that after the courses are over, people don't stay connected, they don't talk to each other. But that doesn't happen here because some of my students last year are also absolutely in touch with me. They kind of call me just like that, sir, we're working on this project, can we talk to you, can we figure out an approach to this problem? Absolutely fine, we can have a open conversation. So yeah, please, I would say, consider the LearnBay family towards your upskilling journey. And my friend, you're absolutely well poised out there. You've got everything you're ready in the sense that you have the technical knowledge, you have the business knowledge. Just get the data skills in place and start applying within the telecom industry, because that itself is going to be a great opportunity for you.
Okay. So our next question is from Maria. So if I graduated sociology and worked some years with advanced Excel formulas, dashboards, reports, etc., which would be the best start for beginning data science journey?
Okay. That of a data analyst. Absolutely. Data analytics roles are very, very important. Being from sociology background, you should have good understanding of psychometric data, You should have uh, good context on how to correlate various, and I would say marketing research is a great domain for you to go into, because marketing research collects data on various problems and various topics through secondary research as well as primary research. And then that was my starting point, by the way, and I reached out to some MR company and I wanted to do work with them for free, and just so that I get some hands-on experience. So I realized that it's a gold mine of as a domain to figure out your basics in data science. So coming from sociology, you can target the MR domain and leverage your understanding of various psychometric analysis to get started, to gain a foothold in the industry. And then of course you can move from one company to the other company and then move from one domain to the other. Having good understanding of advanced Excel is
Mm-hmm.
a fundamental requirement, absolutely. I mean, nobody talks about that in great detail, but trust me, if someone says that I understand Python, Tableau, etc. very well, but I don't know anything about Excel, that is not a very good impression. So on the other hand, if you say that I understand Excel, I mean that is a basic thing. Then I also know Tableau, I also know Python. That is a better impression. So if you have the Excel skills in place, that I think is already there. The fundamental skills are there. So you should definitely consider.
All right. So our next question is from okay, it's from Shekhar. Which is better to start career in data analyst or data science? So which one is better? Which one do you suggest? Once you start a career from data analyst or data scientist?
So it's nowadays there are almost distinct lines drawn between data analyst roles and data science roles. But when I started, it was almost like a mixed bag of both of them together. So I feel that it's easier to start with a data analyst because you can master a fewer set of skills and get started in the data industry. And then over a period of time, in a couple of years, you can upskill yourself, and then you can move to other roles in other companies. So that is one approach which might work better. So a data analyst might work better because you then for example, if it takes you longer to crack a data science role, then you might lose out on more time. But if you have a data analyst role which requires you to work on, say, a data visualizations and insight generation, storytelling, and basic analytics projects, right? So if that is the requirement and you get into that, and then you move up the ladder of skill sets, and that is a better approach. So one such example happened in my team itself. One person got hired with the expectation that the individual is going to work on Excel. Okay, so basically a set of reports need to be made, and the person is supposed to work on Excel. Oh, after a year, through our internal trainings that we provide in the team, we upskilled the individual to Python, and then this individual started basically automating things in Python for other processes, other members of the team. Okay, and then once that was done, he was able to crack a job uh, outside the organization where they were ready to offer him something connected to data science. And that's where, so this is a live example that happened right in front of me, that somebody who entered uh, the role. I mean, this is absolutely a case of upskilling because it was done from, so he came from a institute, not Learnday, but a similar institute in Gurgaon here. And we took him in, and then he, started working on Excel as a basic idea, worked on it a few months, started learning other things. But you have to be inquisitive. You can't get into a data analytics role and then stay in that role for a few years without upskilling yourself. So I would say get into that, continuously upskill, and then you will get opportunities to move up.
All right. Moving forward, our next question is from Sign. Is data science and business analysis both are same or any difference?
So um, there is no static definition whether they are same or different. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on the organization to organization. For
Yeah.
example, um, in an organization such as American Express, business analyst is a designation. Okay. Now, if I take a collection of say 10 business analysts, random collection across the various departments, are they doing the same job? No, right? One business analyst can be working on something, and the other business analyst could be working on very different things. So when you look at business analyst, it's a designation, right? So don't confuse that with data science. A business analyst can do data science. A business analyst can do data analytics. A business analyst can also do machine learning. Okay. So business analyst is not a job definition. It's a designation, just to make it clear to you. Now, the tools you mentioned, Power BI and Tableau, etc., those are essentially data visualization tools. Now, what those tools help you do is that they take away the need for uh, most of your ad hoc questions and answers. For example, if you create a static report every month and people come to you that, okay, can you find out this from your report? Can you find out that from your report? It can be more repetitive. So what you do is you try to create a bunch of insights in a meaningful manner and serve it on a platter using Tableau or Power BI to your user. The user can then use Tableau and Power BI and any such visualization tool as a self-service portal to churn out insights himself. Let me take a small example. Say there are, say Maruti, okay? Maruti wants to know the top selling cars based on last 6 months sale, correct? So they can go to somebody who is doing a data analytics role or data science role, can say that, can you share that data with me? Can you please share the top six, the cars based on the top cars based on the last 6 months and the number of units sold, the exact which variants are getting sold the most, which variants are getting complained the most, which variants are getting test driven but not sold. So I want to know all of those bunch of things they ask you, right? So what do you want to do? You can go ahead and pull the data and give it to them. But what is a better solution to this problem? You start anticipating that, okay, your senior leaders can have these 10, 15 important questions. Let me pre-solve them and create a dashboard and serve the dashboard every single month. Imagine the senior leaders delight, right? And they're like, okay, in addition to building ML, you can also do this. This is amazing. This means I can stop wasting my time coming to you and start going to the dashboard and get my insights right away. So that's why having those skills, data visualization skills, are very, very crucial. But please don't confuse a designation with a job description. It is almost zero correlation. I mean, very little bit of correlation between the two.
Yeah.
So some company can have a, within the same company, a different business analyst could be doing different things.
Okay. So, all right. So now let's have a common question that we usually get to hear. So, Rita, what is the difference between data science, big data, and AI?
Yeah. So
Like,
I
what
guess
exactly? Like, just summarize what exactly data science is, big data people do, and AI people are doing. Simple.
yeah. So just summarize, I think AI, if you look at data science, you're essentially using data connected to various business processes, right? And churning out insights. And if you
Yeah.
can combine those insights to create a predictive solution, that would be ML. But if you are doing it every single time, you are the one to create the model every single time, then it is not AI.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take data science at the base level, like you have to work with the data. But then when you bring in big data,
Mm-hmm.
certain non-standard sources become very good sources for your data. For example, Facebook, right? I know I use my credit card, and then I go on Amazon and I shop, right?
Yeah.
That is okay. Now, can the bank use the Amazon's data to determine something about myself? This is what big data has done. It has started creating. I mean, big data is all about aggregating data from multiple sources, mostly in the unstructured form, right? Mostly in the unstructured form, but aggregating it in such a way that gives you access. I mean, the data scientist gets access to a much wider universe of data. Now, when you bring in all of that, you could create multiple predictive solutions. Once those predictive solutions become self-adaptive, they start learning by itself. It moves into the domain of AI.
Yeah. Okay. So, moving forward, our next question is, what is the importance of statistics in data science?
It's very important to
Many
know.
people are not good with maths, count with numbers. So, what's the importance of that?
Yeah. So, uh, the fundamental importance of statistics is that it teaches you that what is the element of chance, okay, and
Mm-hmm.
why is it that you are interested to do data science. So, for example, um, I can, I have a certain amount of money and I want to walk into a casino and I don't know which games I have better chance of winning, right? So I start putting money across all the games that are there. I win some, I lose some, and
Yeah.
then I do this for a month. Every single day, I like go and I do this. There's a lot of money to waste, it seems. So you kind of do that, right? Now, what is it that you're looking at actually? That when you after a month, you have collected data for 30 days worth of performance, and you can see which games you won, which games you lost, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you want to do is you want to look at your overall outcome in a probabilistic, looking at it from a probabilistic point of view, and then trying to see which games you have a better chance of succeeding, which
Yeah.
games you don't have a better chance of succeeding. Are there any patterns or are there anything connected to the games themselves that can help you predict that which games I have a better chance of succeeding?
Yeah.
If you are able to do that, that you can then make a strategic investment. And after 2 months when I go, I only place money in small games. So that is what statistics teaches you. It teaches you to recognize that probability as the base of solution for most of the business problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you use probability to solve it, what is the baseline probability or the baseline chance of success today, versus when you create a data science driven model, right? Then
Yeah.
how much incremental success chance do you get? How much will your chance of success actually increase? So that is how statistics will help you form your thoughts better. It's not to make sure that it's not a place to demonstrate your statistical um, concepts on the understanding of the subject, because it's not an exam scenario, but
Yeah.
it helps you form your thoughts in a much more structured manner.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I hope everyone is getting the answers of what they like, what commonly people ask. I hope you guys are enjoying the session. Anybody who's like wants to say something?
Yes. Hi.
Ankit,
Hi.
hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can hear
I can
you.
hear you.
So, as you said, firstly start with the analytics, then you move to data science, as you previously mentioned. So, I want to know, as a starting for the data science, what kind of tool and how to start from the scratch. Because I have searched regarding the data analytics. There is a lots of material available on the internet, and it's quite, it's getting confused. So how to start and how to select the best platform to start your career in data analytics or data science.
Sure. um, when you say, I mean, of course there are lots of material out there on the internet. And now we have the problem of plenty. It seems it's getting much more confusing with no clear
Yeah.
direction. So my recommendation to you would be to start with a small set of concepts as a starting point, and then try and master those concepts, and then move to the next one. So for example, if you take up a topic on, say, probability, okay, try and understand what is probability, and what are the various ways in which the concepts of probability can be used in various business problems. Try to take it like a story format, and try to get those concepts in place. First of all, understand those concepts. Next thing that you should know is that when you want to move to data science, it is important to be good at some programming language, something which is getting used in the market nowadays. So back when I was starting, it was important to know SAS, okay, because most good companies would work on SAS. Now most good companies work on Python. So it is important to know that how can you deliver those data science tasks in Python. So do you have to become an expert in Python? Absolutely not. Because if you want to become an expert in Python, then you're looking at becoming a proper Python developer. That is a very different thing, right? But what you want to do is you want to use Python for your benefit to be able to deliver a data science related task. For example, a simple thing like, can you find out the top selling cars, right? You want to know how you can use Python to write a few lines of code that can help you get the answer to the top selling cars. Are you with me so far, Ankit?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, the first thing you should understand is that, let's take the fear away from data science, that it is like getting overwhelming or extremely confusing. So let's take that away. Let's understand basic things like mean, median, mode, probability on the statistics part, and let us practice two libraries in Python, NumPy and Pandas. Again, you don't have to become an expert in NumPy and Pandas. You can start with the very basics. So take a small data set. Take, say, for example, take the Titanic data set or Iris data set. Take any small data set. Okay. Learn fundamental things like how to take the data inside Python, how to read the data, how to observe what kind of features do you have over there. Okay, how to filter the data, how to break it apart into multiple. If you want to access a column, then how do you do it? If you want to access a row, then how do you do it? So start making a note of all these fundamental questions, and then start solving them one by one. You will feel internally that your expertise is actually growing. And then the use of SQL is very important. So try and see how you can build a good concept of how to summarize data. So summarization of data happens using group by in SQL. The same group by you can use in Pandas in Python also. So try and get a good concept of how to summarize data and get insights. So if you can get that, then I think you will start to get a hang of the things as a fundamental concept. And I think overall this is where structured guidance actually helps. So LearnBig definitely has one of those, but LearnBay is not the only place. I mean, of course, you can have multiple other places, but it's less confusing in LearnBay because it is a live setting. You can have a direct one-to-one conversation with your whoever is trying to help you learn them. But as a starting point, make a note of core concepts and then go from one concept to the other. So it will take some time, but if you can dedicate a couple of hours every day, I think you should be sorted in a period of 7 to 8 months.
Okay. 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 Thank you so much for your
Yeah,
information.
absolutely. If you have any further questions, Ankit, please feel free to reach out to Apurva, and you can, if you guys, any of you want to talk to me separately, you can actually chat. Take my number from her. Contact me as well. More than happy
Sure.
to say a word.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankit. Okay. So our next question is, how can you ensure that data is of good quality and deal with missing random values in a data set?
Yeah, it's a problem that we often deal with. Data
Mhm.
quality is a big issue.
Yeah.
So when you are exploring data, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to explore all the columns, all the features to see what percentage of the overall column is missing. So if you see that some features or some particular columns have 80% missing, 70% missing, some of
Yeah.
them may have 5%, 2% missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the lesser the missing value percentage, better the column is any which way, because the data collection or the data capture on that particular feature has been good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the way to deal with missing values, there are plenty of ways. We should start by the simplest of all the ways, in which we take a numerical value, we replicate, we substitute the missing value with the average value of all the populated values. That is one. The other method could be to replace it with the median of the populated value. That could be the other one. And then for categorical features, we can try and impute with the modal class or the most frequently occurring class. So the de facto logic over there is going to be that, look, we can see that some of these values are missing. So
Mm-hmm.
since this category is occurring the most I mean, this category occurs with the highest probability. So
Yeah.
we can assume that which this particular category has the highest probability of occurring. That's why we'll substitute it with the model category. So that is one way. There are multiple other ways of dealing with it also. But we need a longer conversation for that.
And I guess we have limited time. So yeah. So moving to our next question is, what is SQL? Why we use it in data science?
So
If you can
structured query
summarize what
language.
exactly SQL is, how we can use it in data science, would be great. Like summarize totally.
Yeah, sure. So structured query language SQL is important in helping data scientists pull the right data for
Mm-hmm.
their work, for any kind of projects. So most of the projects, they come to me without any data. It has never been given. Data has been given to me ever, right? So only problem statements and project statements. For example, they'll be like, okay, can you figure out, can we analyze the platinum card portfolio? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much it. That's all they have to say, and they walk away. What you do is you go to your database, right?
Yeah.
and you will pull out customers belonging to that portfolio for a certain time frame. So you're now at this stage of the project, you're designing the entire data collection strategy as a data scientist yourself.
Yeah.
But then it could be that you're working in an organization where there are specific data engineering teams. So over there also, what you must do is you must give them the requirement to pull the data for you. So when you give them the requirement, they are going to ask you questions based on their SQL queries. For example, if they want to apply a filter on the portfolio type, it has to be like, okay, portfolio should be platinum. Last 6 months of data I need. So these are the filters you have to tell them. If you don't have a data engineering team, you have to apply the filters yourself. But in any case, extracting data from database without SQL is very tough. So SQL, I think, is absolutely a must-have skill
Yeah.
for any data science roles.
Okay. So, okay. So this is like most important question. I think everybody is curious to know. What are
Yeah,
data science interviews like? So
yeah,
obviously, it's like somebody who wants to switch the career. This is the most important question. Like how interviews
right.
gonna take place. What are questions they might just ask? So what are data science interviews like?
So if I have to summarize this for you, what data science interviews are
Yeah.
like, data science interviews are, I would say, a grand data validation exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What I mean is that for the interviewer, your resume is a database.
Mm-hmm.
I have your resume, right?
Yeah.
That's my data about you. That's the data that I can see. And the interviewer is constantly trying to validate the data, trying to ascertain whether the projects that are mentioned in the resume, have you done them, or have you just written them without even doing them, right? So are you the, or maybe have you done them yourself, or somebody else did it, and you're positioning it as if you've done it yourself. So those kind of things. So it's very uh, it, I think it's more of a I would say exercise where your resume becomes a great filter. So you must, what is it that you should do in a data science interview? So you should absolutely be on top of your resume. Every single thing that you have written in your resume, you should know why you have written it in your resume, right? You need to be very, very clear. And there can be any questions based on any project that you have written. And it is not acceptable if you tell that, oh, I have written that, I don't have a lot of context on that. It is not acceptable. Then why did you write it? That becomes a problem. Okay. So don't repeat the, I mean, don't make that mistake. Whatever you do, whatever you are very supremely confident about, you would mention it in your resume. That is one filter in data science interviews. The other thing that they will try to do is they will try to ask you, your concepts on the algorithms, as if the packages in Python has not yet been written. Like that, forget about sklearn. I want you to tell me how random forest algorithm works from scratch. That can happen, but rarely will you be asked to write a complete function of random forest model unless you're getting into some specific roles. So they won't ask you to write a program as such, but then you are expected to know the inner working of the algo. Okay, so that is there. So having a good concept on the topics that you've mentioned is important. Then the third thing you can expect is some case studies. They can have some behavioral case studies for you as well. That okay, as a data scientist, you have certain elements in your presentation, and the audience that you are presenting it to does not agree, right? So they say in the middle of the presentation that okay, this is not a number that I think is correct, right? So what do you do? Some situational questions can come, some data science puzzles can come, some basically brain teasers can be asked to you, and that's because problem solving and logical thinking is being tested. So I think in your data science interview, a lot of different skills are tested: your communication, your confidence, your concepts, problem solving, logical reasoning and thinking. Those kind of things are supposed to be expected in a data science interview.
Okay. So basically, you have answered what kind of skills and technical techniques are to be added in resumes.
Yeah, with skills and techniques, skills that you can talk about, techniques that you have used and you have either used or professional setting or at a academic setting.
Yeah,
That is
basically
okay.
one should have something which they have already worked on and they can talk about that in their resume, right?
Yeah, and when we say work on, Apurva,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be the case that you worked on in an office setting. So then in that case, then what would uh, final year students do, right? So they're not yet in their jobs. So what is important is that whenever you're writing about a skill or a technique, you should back it up with your experience. That you can say, for example, we had MATLAB,
Yeah.
MATLAB as a software as a part of MSc statistics, right? So we had to do a project on MATLAB. So some of us had MATLAB in our resumes, and what we were able to speak at the time of campus interviews was that, like, that look, we have learned MATLAB to whatever extent we could, and the technique that we are absolutely sure is that of regression. So you make me do regression in MATLAB, I can do. If you want me to do regression in Excel, I can do. I can also do it on SPSS and other platforms. So basically, it's a technique that I'm confident in, and a skill. When it comes to skill, it has to be. But I think you should also mention softer skills like your presenting abilities. If you have any extracurriculars that you have done, that you should also mention, right? Along with your work or any project that you've done, you should mention that. So yeah, whatever you're confident about, whatever you can talk about, please mention that in your resume.
Right. So how many projects and which projects should we add? So how many projects should be added in our resume and which all projects we should add? If you can give some guidance on that too.
Okay. So I'll answer the second part. I'll come to the first part a little later. So the second part of the question is which projects we should add, right? So try and showcase that you have worked on projects that have a business outcome. Okay. For example, you have learned how to build a classification model. Now, you have a lot of data sets out there where you can use to build a classification model. You could use the Titanic data set. You can use the iris data set, or diabetes data set, bunch of these famous data sets out there, but they don't have a business outcome, right? It becomes a bit of a tough thing to actually justify the even choice of that data set. So I would recommend that choose projects that have an actual business outcome. One such example is something that I mentioned a little while ago about the home credit data. Okay, so home credit data is a very real life data. They're trying to figure out which customers should be getting a home loan, which customers should not be getting a home loan, right? So try and add such kind of projects which have a certain business outcome. Now comes coming to how many projects. I would say 3 projects. Okay, so because what is happening there is you should offer a choice of 3 to your interviewer. The interviewer should feel that if you just write one project or 2 projects, it can become a little bit of a it will add more value if you have 3 projects, because the interviewer gets at least 3 projects to choose from to grill you with. Okay, so the interviewer should feel that you have he or she has 3 projects to choose from, and okay, let me ask any one of them. But giving them a choice of 3 projects is actually pretty good. So yeah, keep 3 projects that have a business outcome, that can be backed up, that can be spoken about in a clear cut communication fashion.
Okay. So I hope everyone is clear like how many projects one should use and what are projects you should add in your resume. You can write in the comments if you have any doubt or if it's clear, please say something. Now, moving forward, what are tips and tricks to crack any data science, data analytics big data interview? So, any tip and tricks one should use according to you?
Um, what are some of the tips and tricks that I have used? Let me just revisit my memory. Well, one thing I always try to do is wherever I apply for, I take the time to show that I have done research on the organization. Okay. So it's a lot of times we come across interview candidates, especially where they don't have a good idea about what the organization does. Although nowadays it's not something very acceptable, because you have a lot of material on the internet, you have lots of material on the YouTube or any other social media platform where you can actually check what's going on with respect to any organization, right? So that's important that you have to showcase. And then the other trick is to show some linkages between what you have done and what makes you a suitable candidate for that particular role. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, you may not belong to that domain. That is perfectly understandable. But if you especially don't come from that particular domain, say for example, somebody wants to switch from um, I don't know, from say retail to banking. Okay. And the individual has very little, I mean, no experience in working in banking. So then what is important? So then for this candidate, it's important to showcase that the candidate actually understand how banking as a domain works. Okay. How does it work? How do banks make money? What are the challenges? What are the cost factors? What are some of the regulatory pressures? So this is the research the person has to do. Now, the trick here is to show that your current experience in a different domain is still relevant for banking, and you have to convince the interviewer. How do you do that? You need to show, say, your work on any kind of retail domain. Could be, working on a supermarket kind of a client, and over there you figured out what are the relevant marketing offers for a particular client. Okay.
Mhm.
Now think about this concept. You're basically trying to find out what are the relevant discount offers to different kind of client who are shopping at say Spencer's. All right. Let's take that example. Now, how will you use that experience to make yourself relevant for a marketing analytics role in HSBC? You can, because HSBC also has multiple product portfolios, multiple geographies. So if you happen to bring if you happen to bring a person on board who knows how to do effective clustering, effective segmentation, and for every segmentation figure out the most relevant features and then build predictive models, that means a lot of the basic work can be done by the individual. What the bank will have to do, or what the senior members of the banking team will have to do, is impart the domain knowledge over to you, impart the business understanding over to you, and then create a solid robust project out of it. So this is the real trick in being able to convince that my skills are portable, my experience in a domain can be applicable in banking as well, which makes me relevant for this role. And why am I a good choice? Because although I'm not a part of the domain, I have taken the time to do a basic research on banking, etc., or any kind of domain you want to apply. You've done basic research on that. That goes to show that if you give me an unknown business problem to start with, I will not straight away jump towards solving the problem. I'll first try to understand the problem, try to build a contextualized knowledge around it, and then try to solve it. So these are a couple of softer demonstrations during your interview, which will help you.
Okay. All right. So now we're taking a few questions that I've received in the chat box. So first question is from Mohammed. A question coming from a digital marketing background, 5 years. Do you think data science as a career transition will be fruitful and I can still stay within marketing domain overall? Would I have to start from the very beginning or after training I can join at a senior role?
Okay. So this question came from Mohammad Ehsan. Thank you, Ehsan, for asking the question. I think, coming from digital marketing, uh, you have the advantage of understanding many concepts connected to marketing as a whole and how digital marketing makes a difference, right? Now, so if you transition to data science, you can transition in multiple ways. So there are specific digital marketing analytics teams nowadays, within many banking or any kind of most domains, where they have what they try to do is they try to measure efficacies of various campaigns. They try to understand how to design multiple future campaigns, and what is it that they should keep in mind as a learning from the previous campaign. So that can be a good starting point. Now you should look at being in marketing given your background, so that you do not have to start from scratch in a completely new domain. But at
Mhm.
the same time, if you add some of these concepts within your skill set,
Yeah.
it will help you find a data science driven role within digital marketing itself. So you are I think you're another example of one of our audience today who was also had a similar question. So I think even you are well poised to look for a role. I think the other individual I'm talking about comes from 14 years of experience in telecom, right? So similar to him, you also have experience in digital marketing, which you should actually leverage to find a better role within the digital marketing space itself, where data science will be a core expectation. That okay, today maybe that is not an expectation in your role, but you want to move to a role where data science is a part of your expectation.
Mhm.
Did I answer your question, Asan? Did it make sense?
I think not there. So
He's
next
on
one,
mute.
yeah. So our next question is internship must be for freshers in data science? So a fresher need to do any kind of internship, or they can directly join the company as a like the main lead?
Well, there is no hard and fast rule that you have to do an internship, but
Mm-hmm.
if you have an internship with you, it gives you a certain sense of practical exposure towards actual work that is done in data science. So it
Mm-hmm.
might help you take a better decision whether you want to go into that or whether you want to like do something else. Or yeah, I mean, like having an internship does give you a little more to talk about in your interview.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that way it can be an advantage, and it also goes to show that you have picked up some practical skills while doing your interview while doing your internship. So yeah, the main idea is that you have got live content in a professional setting to talk about. But is it an absolute necessity? I would say not
No.
everybody from colleges who get placed as freshers, they have internships, so not everybody has that, so it's not a absolute necessity. But yeah, if you have it, of course it gives you a more and a few additional topics to speak about.
Yeah. Okay. So another question is how to get an internship as a data analyst or data science. How one can get the internship.
There is no one answer to this question, I guess. There are nowadays a lot of portals where internship positions are hosted, where I think even on LinkedIn, some internship positions, are sometimes floated by individuals who are hiring, right? So I would say best way to find an internship is to stay connected on LinkedIn and keep connected with social media. But I don't know if my method of looking for internship is still applicable in today's time and age, because I did it I did it long time ago, like in the age of dinosaurs, basically. When I looked for internship, PCO
Mm-hmm.
booths was in existence. I mean, it was that back, that much back in
Wow.
time, where you have landline phones and PCO booths. Nowadays, you see PCO booths in movies when they want to show the late 90s or early 2000 time frame, but
Mm-hmm.
they used to exist. So I basically created a list of all marketing research companies in NCR, especially in Delhi, and I would go to this PCO booth outside my college. I struck a deal with this guy that I can only pay you once a month, and I used to call up, make a pitch about myself that look, I'm from so and so college. This is my background, and but that's me. Like I'm not sure if everybody would be able to do it or would be up for it. What I feel is that maybe it's a better idea to stick to social media
Mm-hmm.
and get it there. So I actually got one internship in a marketing research firm
Oh.
in this manner itself. I worked with integrated marketing research services in Delhi in Bikaji Kama place. It
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely no pay job. So I called up my father and said, "Look, I got the internship,
Yeah.
and you have to pay me." And it's like, this doesn't sound well because it seems like they need to pay you. I said, "No, that doesn't happen. It's
Yeah.
completely, it's basically, yeah." So I was paid some stipend by my father to stay back in Delhi after my college was over and hostel was closed. So I would, change a few buses, go to Bikaji Kama place.
Yeah.
But then it gave me a lot of exposure towards working on marketing research data. And
Hmm.
imagine my excitement when I looked at SPSS because SPSS was a software that was taught in college as a part of my curriculum.
Okay.
And we were like, can we ever get some practical exposure in SPSS? So imagine my excitement when I saw that they are working on XPSS and they gave me a data set to work on. And I was trying to find out what is the data predictive of figuring out the quality of a mustard oil brand. And we were trying to solve the problem using regression. So it was extremely valuable from a learning perspective. I'm still in touch with my mentor, by the way. This was in 2006, long,
Mhm.
long ago. But yeah, I mean, it is an amazing experience, but I feel it's not a mandatory thing. A lot of my friends did not do this, and they managed to get a job after the campus interview. So, but it gave me a lot of things to talk about. Of course, it gave me an advantage. If you
Okay.
manage to get it, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah. All right. So next question, can I know some open source databases? So,
This, I would say, Kaggle. Look no further. Kaggle and UCI ML. So I'm going to write it in the chat window if I can. Let's see if I can do
you
that.
can.
UCI machine learning
So you can
repository.
use the link and see if you can find some database to do some projects or do something with the data
Kaggle,
science.
yeah.
Yeah.
So try playing around with these words for business related data, right? Banking, um, marketing, I would say telecom, right? Telecom. Then you have credit risk. These are some of the keywords you can play around with when you go and search for data on Kaggle to find out data sets that have actual business context to it, and then pick up your data set from there and solve a project on your own if you want to, and then that can actually add a lot of value in your resume. Trust me, because everybody understands you've picked up the data from Kaggle. It's not a live data set. Everybody knows that. But what is most important is that what did you do with it? Can you take me through the journey that you've downloaded the data today? What are the steps you perform to create the final model? If somebody can take me through the journey from A to B in a very meaningful, succinct, and a crisp manner, I think that's a good interview. That's a good quality demonstration of skills.
So I'm gonna take next question is from Vamsi. So do LearnBay help career transition only for working professionals or also for freshers? If so, how can you help us? Okay. So I
So I think,
think
yeah,
yeah.
it is for both working professionals and freshers. I mean, there's no demarcation there. Vamsi, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is Vamsi still there? I think she's there. I don't know. You're here? Okay. Let me know if there's anything right. So I think, yeah, Learnby gives you the opportunity for both freshers as well as individuals who are experienced in their fields. The curriculum is largely similar for both, and you get a good mix of concepts, practice, live projects, and of course the mentorship of people who are training you in a live setting. That will be there. So yeah, the answer to your question is for both.
Okay. So our next question from Ambati Surya. So SAS SPSS is compulsory needed for data analyst.
Sorry, what was the question again?
SAS SPSS is compulsory needed for data science analyst.
Not anymore. It
Okay.
was the case when I started out.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. And there is, I mean, you can learn SAS, SAS or SPSS, but it doesn't make you applicable for the wider companies, because majority of the companies that work on Python. I would say much rather that spend the time learning Python
Mm-hmm.
and how to use Python to solve problems. That is more important nowadays.
Okay. So do you guys have any other queries apart from this? If you want to ask something to expert, you can directly unmute yourself and come jump in the discussion. So anybody who wants to ask anything, I am
I
good
think
at Python, but
Ambati
lagging
is
behind in R. Okay.
sorry.
So Amity is also
Ambati
saying
has a question.
that I'm good at Python but lagging behind R. Is it okay?
Yeah, I mean, see, if you're lagging behind in R, right? One easy way to solve this problem is to try and do everything you do in Python in R. If in Python you can do 50 things with confidence, can you try to see if you can do exactly those 50 things in R and give yourself that practice? Because the moment you do that, you will internally feel more confident. See, first of all, there is no end to Python and R, right? Because these are open source platforms, they are always evolving. The problem with these platforms, and why SAS is still trusted as a regulatory, it's by banks. I mean, Python is not that much trusted to build sensitive risk models, because SAS is a company which can be tracked right? You can actually go back to SAS and say your algorithm is giving me a certain regression coefficient as 2.4. Scikit-learn is saying it should be 2.6. So between 2.4 and 2.6, there is a world of difference, especially in terms of figuring out who gets a loan or who doesn't get a loan. So what I would recommend is that try to do whatever you're doing in Python, right? Try to do exactly same things in R to see how that is done in R. The moment you learn those things in R, that okay, if I can perform the same tasks today that I do in Python, if you can at least perform those tasks in R, that itself is a great way to upskill yourself in R. So there's no way in which anybody can become a complete expert. That is not possible, and that is also not the expectation, right? That is not the expectation. The expectation is that you need to be someone who can take your skills from one platform to the other platform. So try and do that. That will help you.
So the next question is Tableau or Power BI, which is better?
I have used Tableau. I found it to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend Tableau. I've not used Power BI in my work.
Okay. So Yash is asking, are there any other programming languages we need to learn for data science? I know Python and are a bit good. So is there any other programming language that he needs to learn to be the part
uh,
of data scientist?
yeah, so this was almost missed out in the conversation. And who asked this? Yash, right? So
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
thanks for bringing it up. I myself have downloaded Nime, KNIME, Nime. I think Nime is interesting. Should download Nime. Nime is open source. You can pick it up. I haven't learned Nime myself yet, but that is my next goal. I want to learn Nime because I feel Nime will be used across multiple companies, multiple industries. Anything which is open source that is out there for you to learn, pick it up. And the way to pick it up is very simple. Here's what you do, right? And this is what I teach in my project sessions in LearnWay also. I take away all the fear away from you. Anybody, according to me, any logical person can become a data scientist. What I do is there is a sequence of steps that we follow, right, in order to create a classification model or any kind of uh, regression model. Now, try to follow the same sequence of steps in Nine. Try to follow the same sequence of steps in R. If you're able to follow them, you automatically feel more confident. But yeah, Nine can be one thing that you might want to pick up. Is that okay? Yes. There are a couple of other questions actually. I can also see
Okay,
here.
so there's another one. Can you please spell out nine?
KNIME.
Okay. All right. So other question is, so please tell me all tools for data science and data analysts.
Excel, SQL, Python, R, Tableau. Okay. Additional tools are Hive. I would say Hive and Nine, and Spark. If you, yeah. Again, no question of expertise. First, first figure out what you want to do. For example, you want to do stuff like customer segmentation. Okay. So on a piece of paper, write down the steps that you want to follow on a piece of paper. Okay, have a nice hot cup of coffee, relaxing on an afternoon, write down on a piece of paper, these are the steps I'm going to follow, and then try to replicate those steps in all the softwares, Python, R, Nime, Spark, whatever, right? So at least from, if anybody wants you to do that job in any of these platforms, you can do it confidently. So that automatically propels you to some level of expertise. And then of course try to figure out that okay, what is specific in Nime, what is specific in Spark, though that will come with added research. But this method that I just gave you, this small trick that I just spoke about, actually will propel you. It will help you move in a faster way towards accelerating, it'll help you, like, give you some sort of a head start towards picking up the new skills. I hope. I mean, it does for me. So I'm assuming I have very average intelligence, so I'm assuming that this will be helpful for everybody else.
Okay. So thank you so much everyone for taking out your time. And thank you, Ritra, for asking all the queries that we have and students are having regarding the career transition. I hope that you guys like the session. I have also shared a link in the chat box. If you like the session, please don't forget to share your reviews on our Google platform. I've shared the link with you there. So all right. So I think we're gonna end the session here. And thank you so much for joining the session, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice day, guys.